Time for a brand new episode of Gimme the Hot Sauce. This is episode 71. Joined now by the star of the show, the hardest working man in broadcasting. Stacey King hasn't been home or seen his dogs or been able to check the mail or anything. Stacey, how you holding up, my friend?
You know what? I'd be doing a lot better, Mark, if we were winning.
Yeah.
It's tough when you're on these long road trips. It's been a very long month. March seems like we're gone every week for 4 or 5 days, and this will be our last long road trip until we got one more game after this in April, but we're home most of April, so I'm looking forward to that. But again, it's not fun when you're not winning.
Yeah, Stacey's joining us from his hotel room in Cleveland. I'm here at the Hustle and
The
Flow
lovely
studio.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Who said no one wants to come here and visit Cleveland? What person said that? I'm here.
You got fun plans for tonight? A big Friday night in Cleveland?
No. I'm staying right in my room.
Yeah.
All because of Joakim Noah's comments. I'm staying in my room.
Well, this is a Thank God It's Friday edition of Gimme the Hot Sauce. We haven't been with you for a couple of weeks because of Stacey's travels, but glad to join you. Coming up in our next segment, we're going to be joined by Joel Meyers. He's the play-by-play voice of the New Orleans Pelicans. He's done NFL. He's done baseball, so we'll talk to him about his career, what's going on with Zion Williamson, and his perception of what he saw from the Bulls in the game last night. Stacey, obviously DeMar DeRozan didn't play against the Pelicans. We knew it was going to be kind of an uphill battle. Zach gave it all he could, scoring 39 points. But when he went to the bench, man, they had no offense at all.
Yeah, I mean, they had a great start in that first quarter. I think they were +8 in that first quarter, up by 8 at the end of the first quarter. Looked like they had turned a corner. The energy was there. The defensive rotations were there. And then the second quarter, they had a little slippage, which you kind of expected because Zach went to the bench and DeMar's not playing. So where the Pelicans outscored them by 9 in that second quarter, the Bulls were only down by 1.5. But you felt good, Mark, going into halftime with the energy they played with and the way they were playing defense. You really felt good about the way they were going to come out in that third quarter. And, third quarter was an even third quarter. I think they only scored like 23 points in the third quarter. But the fourth quarter was, that was a disaster. I mean, you got outscored by 16 in the fourth quarter. That Alvarado kid came in and had really kind of changed the game, first defensively and then later on offensively. So it was a little disappointing with the way they played in the fourth quarter because I knew that was a game they had to win. They had to win that one to start this road trip off. You still can win 3 out of 4, because I remember I said that on the broadcast at home before we went on this road trip. The goal should be win 3 out of 4 games, but it makes it much more difficult now because you were counting on getting that win last night in New Orleans, and then the Cleveland game was going to be the game that was going to be a little harder out of the 4. So now that's a must-win game for the Bulls.
You mentioned Jose Alvarado. He was a two-way player. He fought his way to get to the Pelicans and try to contribute. And it is March Madness, and he was a big star for Georgia Tech last year in helping them advance a couple of rounds in the NCAA Tournament. What did you make of that one play where he hit in the corner and basically came out of the shadows to force a travel?
I thought it should have been a technical on the bench because the bench was standing up, and you couldn't see him. If you were taking the ball out, you would assume that he was still on the bench. And he was hiding. He did that against, I think, the Miami Heat, but there was no player standing up. So that was okay in that aspect. But I thought last night that should have been a technical on the bench. And just because the bench kept standing up and he was hiding, and he's a little guy to begin with. I mean, he's like I said, Eddie Goodell. He kind of reminds me of Eddie Goodell.
Yeah.
He was hiding, and then all of a sudden he comes running, and Caruso didn't even see him. And I don't even remember who took the ball out. But he didn't see him. So obviously he was hit pretty well. And, it should have been a technical, but they didn't call it. He got away with it. It was a good play on his part.
Obviously, you're traveling on the team charter, but you're kind of separated from the players, and we don't get a chance to talk to players as much as we used to in the pre-COVID days. What's your sense of what the team's morale is like right now? They've lost a bunch of games over the last few weeks.
Well, I think they're down right now, because they know how important these games are. They see the standings just like everybody else does. They see Boston surging. They've run past them now. They see Toronto right on their heels, even though they beat Toronto a couple days ago. Toronto had a huge win against Cleveland last night, so they're coming up. you got some guys up here. I think there's a little bit of concern now, what they can do and how they're going to do things. And, they know every game's important, and the more games you lose, the more chances you're going to be getting put in a position you don't want to be in. Right now, you're in a favorable position in that 4 or 5 matchup where, of course, you don't want to be there. You were just number 1 a few weeks ago, and now you're in that 4 and 5 matchup. And so that's a place you want to be. You don't want to go below 5 because after you go below 5, you're going to face one of those top 3 teams in Philadelphia, Milwaukee, or Miami. And that's going to be a tough first-round matchup for anybody.
Yeah, on Thursday night, Toronto beat Cleveland. So now Toronto and Cleveland are tied. They're 1 game behind the Bulls. And if Cleveland wins that game tomorrow night, it sets up a real bad doomsday scenario where the Bulls could fall all the way back to the play-in. I mean, beating Toronto Monday was big because you hold the tiebreaker over the Raptors now. And this game in Cleveland, probably even bigger because there's no way you want to fall back into the play-in with all the great things they've accomplished this season.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations, Mark. It's almost like the NCAA tournament. Win or go home. That's the mindset you have to have. Every one of these guys have been in that situation. They've been in that pressure situation at the college level. None of them have been in except for DeMar and Fuchs. There's probably 3 guys, and Tristan Thompson and I think Caruso. So no more than 4 guys, maybe 5, have been in a playoff game in the NBA. So a lot of these guys don't know what it takes to get to the playoffs. And I think that's what you're seeing right now is the experience factor. Guys not knowing that every game is different. Just like in the playoffs, every quarter is different. You're going to play a different first quarter than you're going to do the second quarter because adjustments need to be made. Adjustments need to be made on the fly. And I don't think these guys who've never been in a playoff situation, I don't think they understand the severity of the games that they were in to start this run when you had about 14 or 15 games left and how important every one of those games were. Because you remember, I used to say all the time, 2 weeks ago, you got to start having a playoff mentality these games. Because if you lose your number 1 seed 2.5 weeks ago, if you lost 2 or 3 games in a row, you can find yourself in the 4th or 5th spot. Lo and behold, where's this team at? The 4th or 5th spot now. And with a possibility of going down if they don't continue to win. So, they've got to find a way to win. They got to put all the negativity, down and focus on each other and rally around each other. Circle the wagons, as Phil Jackson would tell us. Circle the wagons, and it's us against the world, and that mentality, and try to turn this around.
Billy Donovan said on Thursday that he did not believe the groin injury that DeMar DeRozan is dealing with is serious. He thought it was just a strain. But, boy, if he misses numerous games, they're in a whirl of hurt. What are you hearing around the team about DeMar's availability? You think there's a good chance he plays against the Cavs on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, he could have probably played last night. They were just probably putting him out for precautionary reasons. You don't want something that could be a tweak to turn out to be something that could be long-term. And this is no time of the year to have your star player, missing significant time as you're battling for a playoff spot. So, but I feel like, he's been probably the most durable Bulls player this season. For him to miss a game, he has to be pulled out the lineup forcefully. So I expect him to be back tomorrow, especially since we lost that game last night. And him knowing as a veteran player, knowing how important these games are, because as I said before, these guys watch ESPN, they listen to the radio, they read the newspaper, they understand what the situation. They're in dire need right now. And it's important now that they try to finish up this season strong, because if you can get through these next weeks here on the road against Cleveland, New York, and Washington, your chances are going to be a little bit better now because you'll have more games at home, which the Bulls are pretty good at home. Their record indicates that. Doesn't matter who they play. They're a very good home team. So you've got, some games at home to finish up the season to be able to solidify your spot in the playoff.
What are your early impressions of Patrick Williams and his return after that long layoff?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm just an armchair quarterback. Hey, you know what? I say put the kid in the starting lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Get him out there. It's too late in the season to be, in my opinion, to be trying to experiment with them. It's okay, let's get him, bring him along slowly. You can still monitor his minutes as a starter. You need to get him out there, get him acclimated playing with Zach. with DeMar, with Vooch, to find out where his niche is going to be. I think you're waiting to put him out there, and then all of a sudden you're going to throw him out there in the playoffs, and he's not going to have any experience playing with those guys, and it's going to hurt you. So I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like that first game, okay, you brought him off the bench, now it's time to put him back in the starting lineup, because he gives you so much, Mark. First of all, he gives you length and size at the power forward spot, and he rebounds very well at that position. He can defend at that position. Those are the things that the Bulls have definitely needed. He can get the ball off the glass and lead the fast break to allow the wing players like Zach and DeMar to fill the lanes, so he can handle the ball, and Kobe. Those guys can get in scoring position and transition. I think he makes your transition game go, not only as a ball handler, but as a finisher on the wing. And he's just another athletic body that you can switch pick and rolls with, that he can guard pretty much anybody on the floor. So, and if you want to monitor his minutes, you say, okay, he's only going to play 25 minutes as a starter. What's the difference? You're playing 25 minutes as a reserve or 25 minutes as a starter. It's the same. But the difference is he's playing with the guys he's actually going to be playing with when they go into war and battle in the playoffs. And I'd rather have him, playing with those guys than coming off the bench and then, establishing a role coming off the bench where he's the main guy. And now you put him in the starting lineup where he's not the main guy. Now, how does he play?
Yeah, especially in this game coming up against the Cavs. They've got one of the tallest front lines in all of basketball. Jared Allen, of course, is injured, but you still got Markkanen and Mobley and Kevin Love and Wade. And I mean, they got a bunch of big guys to throw at you, so you're going to need another body up there to help Vooch on the boards.
Well, I mean, you're just going to need all hands on deck. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have your best players on the floor. They're going to have their best players on the floor if they're not injured. I think Billy needs to put his best players on the floor, because this is no time of the year to be holding anybody back. I mean, granted, he's coming back from a severe injury, a wrist break. But at the same time, you put Caruso in the starting lineup, after a few games with the broken wrist. And he's, because of his defense and what he brings to the table, I think, when you look at, like, I'm a big fan of Javonte Green, huge fan of Javonte Green. I think Javonte Green is better coming off the bench, playing multiple roles, not just as a power forward, but, play Javonte at the small forward position, probably his natural position, or maybe some two guard defensively, come in and have him a change of pace, kind of like Alvarado was yesterday, where you bring in certain guys to come in there to turn the tempo of the game up, to, turn guys over, to, get some energy infused in the lineup. And those guys are hard to find, Mark. I mean, those high energy guys, we have a couple, and I think, it'd be nice to see them in that role.
We don't know if we're going to see Lonzo Ball during the regular season. He's kind of been shut down now. He's cut back on his running program. They're just trying to get him to strengthen that knee joint. But boy, it doesn't look like he's going to be back before the playoffs. And it appears that other teams have kind of gotten the book on Ayo Dosunmu. He struggled a little bit, and I know that it's up to him now to kind of counterpunch what they're throwing at him. And Billy's been encouraging him, be more aggressive, shoot the ball when you got the opening. And
Yes.
Is it a rookie wall, or is there other things that are going on, Stace?
Well, I think there's a rookie wall, because we all went through it. I mean, after, you got to remember, coming out of college, you're lucky if you play 35 games in a season. You're playing once or twice a week, once during the week and then once on the weekend. This is a totally different level here, where you're playing 3 and 4 nights, 4 and 5 nights. All of us, every player went through the rookie wall. It normally hits probably about after 45, 50 games. But, Ayo's not going to make excuses. I think the situation with Ayo is Ayo he's a kid that, he's trying to improve, number one, and he's also trying to fit in, and he doesn't want to step on anybody's toes. I think he's proven in his time here this year that he is going to be a very good player in this organization. And I think he needs to start playing like that. He's been that way his whole level. Every level he's been at, he's proven to be the best player at that level. And it shouldn't be any different here. It's not saying he's the best player on the Bulls team right now, but what I'm saying is the confidence of being that best player at every level, from, middle school to high school to college. You have to have that same approach. The good ones take that same approach with them every level, and it doesn't matter who's on the team. And I think when he's aggressive, when he's attacking, and he's not thinking about it, Ayo's a special player, especially in transition. And, Billy is talking to him to be aggressive. It's up to Ayo to go out there and be aggressive. It's up to Ayo to take that 3-point shot. These are shots that he wouldn't take in the beginning of the year, but then the confidence came. He started taking them and knocking them down. And now he's kind of regressed a little bit where I don't know if I want to take this shot. He's passing it. And when you have a decision if I'm looking at it, I say I got a decision for him to shoot the ball or say Javonte Green to shoot the ball. I think Ayo's a better 3-point shooter. He should shoot the ball, but he passes that up a lot. And he's just got to go back to being aggressive. We already know he's going to play defense. And I think his confidence sometimes is shaken defensively because he's got to guard so many, top line guards. But it's not his fault. It's not his fault. I mean, he's doing whatever he can as a rookie. They're going at him. Teams know the Bulls pick and roll is not. It hasn't been strong all year. And so he's going to see a brunt of it because he's a rookie, and they're going to put Vooch in those pick and rolls as well. So they know that they can attack him as a rookie and attack Vooch, who is not his strong point. And I think he's gotten down a little about that. And but he's just got to keep his head up. When I see him, I always tell him, keep playing hard. Don't worry about things that you can't control. Only worry about things you control, and that's your energy level and how you come out every day prepared to play.
The Eastern Conference standings couldn't be much tighter. Miami's faded a little bit over the last couple of weeks. Their lead in the Eastern Conference is down to 1 game over Milwaukee, a game and a half over Philadelphia and Boston. Boston's won 21 of their last 24 games, which is just crazy. I saw you on the pregame show yesterday during the crossover segment. They asked you about the dust-up in Miami with Jimmy Butler. You had some strong thoughts on that, Stacey, that Pat Riley, the Godfather, may decide that Jimmy's a little bit too big for his britches down in Miami.
Well, I mean, I've been in that. It's not like I have not been in that culture. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm a guy who just is from the outside looking in and saying, oh, this is what's going to happen. I played there. Yeah. I saw, Pat Riley get rid of Glenn Rice, who was an all-star caliber player in Miami and was Miami's face of the franchise at the first couple of weeks that he was in Miami because Glenn Rice didn't conform to the culture that was being started there. And Glenn Rice was a phenomenal player. And Pat Riley traded him for Lonzo Mourning quickly, and everybody thought he was crazy. Even though you're getting a good center back, you're giving up, one of the best pure shooters in the game that's not even just scratching his prime. And the reason why that happened was because the fact that, Glenn kind of resisted the Pat Riley and the new Heat culture because he had been in a culture where it was kind of laissez-faire, do what you want, come, play as hard as you want, when you want. But Pat Riley came in changing that whole culture. And it didn't sit well with some of the veteran players that played in Miami. And Pat Riley got rid of them. And so my thing with Jimmy is that I'm a big Jimmy Butler fan, always have been, but it's starting to come to a point now where, if it was one place, you'd be like, maybe it was a team, but it's been, Chicago, then it was Minnesota, then it was Philadelphia, and now you're seeing it in Miami. And, every team can't be wrong. Every player can't be wrong. And when you see him going at Spoelstra, who is one of the top coaches, if not the top coach in the NBA, and he was handpicked by Pat Riley. This guy was a video coordinator and had to work his way up, and he was handpicked by Pat Riley to be his successor. And Pat Riley gives him the utmost respect. And when you go at Eric Spoelstra like that in public, you're going at Pat Riley as well. And they might not do anything. They may keep Jimmy because he's a great player. But from what I know, I don't think it's going to work out that way. If Pat Riley can swing a deal that's going to make he's only going to make a deal for Jimmy if the deal is going to help Miami. Yeah. If it's going to improve Miami and put Miami in a situation, because giving up Glenn Rice improved Miami. It gave them a true two-way center in Lonzo Mourning, who was still young as well. So it improved Miami. So he's not going to give up an asset unless it improves the Miami Heat. So, but don't think he's not going to be that he's not on the phone and checking that possibility out.
Yeah, it was interesting watching that whole dust up. Udonis Haslem got involved too, and he's kind of on that team at 40 years old just to kind of patrol the locker room, make sure things aren't get out of control. And he was ready to fight Jimmy, and the lip readers caught Spoelstra saying to Jimmy, "What, you want me to fight you?" I mean, that got pretty ugly. I mean, Spoelstra didn't back down. He went at him. He followed him out of the court, and that got pretty heated.
Mark, let me tell you something, though. That's not the first time that's happened. It's the first time I think that you see it live as a fan or people on the outside during the game. That stuff happens in practice all the time. I mean, there's times I wanted to fight Phil Jackson, but that never spilled over on a bench in public or out where anybody else can see it. There's fights in practice. I mean, you're starting to hear about a lot of the fights that happen in practice through The Last Dance. Michael punching, Will or punching Steve Kerr.
Right.
But a lot of that stuff you never even heard about back then because guys didn't do it in public because we were professionals. What happens in the locker room stays in the locker room. What happens in practice stays in practice. And nowadays with social media and everything, and guys can't wait to get to tell the story on Instagram or Twitter or something, the news gets out. And to be honest with you, that wasn't an isolated situation. There's been some things brewing in Miami since Jimmy's been there that hasn't set well with a lot of the Udonis Haslem and players. And so that kind of spilled over. And then when you question a player like Udonis Haslem and you say something about, shut up and you don't play and sit your blankety blank down and a guy who's well respected, a guy who's well respected in the organization, well respected in the city of Miami because he's a Florida kid, a Miami kid. A guy whose his career is based off of hard work, sacrifice, and teamwork. You go at a guy like that, it's like me going to Bill Cartwright or John Paxson, a veteran guy who, even though we're young and we feel like we're better than those guys, that's disrespectful.
Right. And
you can't do that. And Udonis is one of those guys you don't do that to because, like he said, I will beat your ass. And he was not. that was not like I'm talking tough. Udonis Haslem, everybody in this league knows is a tough dude. And that's why you don't ever see anybody messing with them or messing with him because he's the first one. He's that soldier. He's not the general. He's the guy on the front line. And he'd be the first one. And you see he was the first one to protect Spoelstra. A lot of those other guys were kind of like, trying to, keep the peace. Yeah. But it was Udonis Haslem saying, hey, you're not going to talk to our coach like that. You're not going to embarrass him like that. And he had a good point.
I mentioned the tightly packed Eastern Conference standings. It's going to be fascinating watching the last week to 10 days, all these teams sitting stars to try to avoid playing Brooklyn in the first round because now Kyrie Irving is back. He's a full-time player, and the Nets are probably going to finish in 7th place, and they'll have to play Toronto in the first round in that play-in situation. But no team out front, whether it's Miami or Milwaukee or Philadelphia, Giannis is going to be sitting, Embiid's going to be sitting. No one wants Brooklyn in the first round.
Well, I tell you what, nobody wants Toronto either. Those are the two teams that nobody really wants to play because Toronto is they're healthy now. They defend. They've got a lot of. We saw them the other night. They got a lot of length and depth. And they're one of the teams that had struggled a little bit early, and now they're starting to pick it up a little bit at the right time, getting everybody back. And Brooklyn is going to be scary. I don't know if they're going to have Ben Simmons. They would be much more scared if they had Ben Simmons. Because after watching, Memphis the other night play Brooklyn, Memphis didn't even have Ja Morant, and they beat them. So they're beatable. Are they scary because both those guys are capable of scoring 30 or more?
Right.
Yeah. But where's the third scorer going to be? Who's going to be that third guy? You're missing Joe Harris, a guy to give you consistent outside shooting for anybody that's going to pack in the zone. Drummond has been playing really well for them. That was a great pickup for them.
Seth Curry,
he's rebounding, and he's setting screens and rolling to the basket, scoring a little bit. But let's be real. I mean, where's that third guy going to be for them? That's going to when those other two guys can't score, they're having difficulty scoring. Who's that guy who's going to step up and say, boom, is it going to be, Bruce Brown? He's a guy that gets you hustle points.
Well, Curry's been out. I think they've been missing him. Seth Curry has been out.
Well, yeah. I mean, but, even that, Mark, I mean, you got a guy who's been out for a while. Shooters need timing and rhythm. You just can't come out there and just be like, well, I'm a great shooter, and then I'm just going to make shots. You're going to go through a stretch where, you've got to get your rhythm and timing. And you got to remember, Curry hasn't really played, with Kyrie Irving. So that's another dynamic on top of a dynamic, because here you got a guy who's a ball dominant guard, and you're used to playing with guys knowing where you want that pass at, when you come off the screen, where you want the ball, and you haven't had any chemistry with him. That's going to be a little bit difficult for them. But I see what you're saying, but I don't think Boston fears them. I think Boston right now, to me, is playing the best out of anybody in the conference. Their defense is locked down. Those two forwards, Brown and Tatum, are literally just destroying people. And now you got Marcus Smart being the old Marcus Smart, and they bought into the system defensively, and that's why arguably they're the best team since the All-Star break.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. Phoenix wrapped up the number 1 overall seed with their win last night, and they're just rolling. I mean, Chris Paul is back now.
Man,
I don't know if anybody's beaten Phoenix this year.
They're the real deal. And, I made this comment the other day. I was talking to a friend, and it was like, when Chris Paul was out, Jay Crowder set out against us the other night. I think Cam Johnson set out. So 3 of their, top end players set out. And the guy said, well, what was the difference? Like, how come you guys couldn't beat them? And, why are they so good? And it's the old adage is that they got more better players than you do. Yeah. Okay. And so when you look at their roster, everyone on their roster can play, from the number 1 guy to the 12th or 13th man on that roster can play. And most of their guys on the end of their bench can start for a few teams in this league. And that's the difference. Because I played on a team like this, where if your bench is better than the other team's bench and your starters are better than the other team's starters, how are you going to lose?
Yeah, I know.
You're not going to lose. Because as soon as you sub your subs in, if your subs have starters, quality players that are starters, and they're going against a team that bench may have one good player, the rest of them are decent, we're going to beat you every single time. The more quality depth you have, that's why I say it's important when you're putting a team together, is that when you go down that roster, if someone is missing or sick or whatever, can the 9th or 10th man fill in for 2 weeks and you don't miss a beat? That's how you know you got a great team. That's what you got in Phoenix. You got Chris Paul miss a game. You throw Campaign. Yes, the Campaign. The what do we call him? The tank general or whatever.
The tank commander.
The tank general. The tank commander. But look at him now.
Yeah.
Now he is a quality point guard. And, you look at some of these other kids off that team. You got
Cam Johnson was really playing well before he got
Cam Johnson's playing well. You got, JaVale McGee coming off the bench playing well for him. A guy who used to be on Shaq to the Fool.
Right.
People laughed at him and all the stuff he did. Now he's a great quality big man, gives him good minutes off the bench. So you go down and look at every roster, and I always tell people, go to the playoff team. Forget the bad teams. Go to the teams in the playoffs. Look down their roster and find out, do they have 1 through 12 that can actually play? If you got 1 through 12 that can actually play, you got a pretty good chance to go deep.
Well, one team that's trying to scratch their way into the Western Conference playoff field, the New Orleans Pelicans, they're currently 10th in the standings, which means they would have a spot in that play-in tournament, and they'd play the Lakers in the first round, which would be pretty interesting. We'll get a read on their team from Joel Meyers, their play-by-play broadcaster. But before we go to break, I want to tell you about our good friend Jeff Vukovich. When it comes to insurance for your auto, home, and business, make sure you always reach out and contact the king of insurance, our friend nationwide agent Jeff Vukovich. He's at jeffvuk.com. That's jeffvuk.com. Stacy, how are the Golden Pipes in Cleveland this afternoon?
Nationwide is on your side.
The king never disappoints. Even at a Zoom hookup in Cleveland, the king delivers. And if you have any insurance needs, make sure you contact our good friend Jeff Vukovich. And coming up next, we'll be joined by our special guest. It's episode 71 of Give Me the Hot Sauce. Joel Meyers in the Sriracha waiting room. Welcome back, episode 71 of Gimme the Hot Sauce. We would like to welcome in our special guest this week. He is the play-by-play voice of the New Orleans Pelicans. You've heard him call the NFL on NBC. He's called baseball. I saw in your bio you've done soccer. You've done it all. Joel Meyers, the great broadcaster, joining us. Joel, thank you so much for being our guest this week. And I know you saw Stacy yesterday. That was a tough loss for the Bulls. The Pelicans, even without Brandon Ingram, and of course Zion's missed the whole year, those guys play hard, don't they?
Yeah, they're connected to Willie Green. I give the coach credit and his staff because there's chemistry finally, guys, with this team. But at the same time, as Stacey knows, if you guys have DeMar, it's a totally different story too. So Zach kills the Pels every time. And I wasn't surprised last night over his previous 3 game against the Pels. 38 points a game over the previous 3, hitting about 60% of his shots. Guys, I really appreciate watching Zach LaVine as much as all the years. DeMar DeRozan and Stacey, my son was a teammate way back when of DeMar's, so I'm not objective about him. He's an amazing young man and a future Hall of Famer.
Now, watching the game last night, I came away very impressed that, the Pelicans, they didn't give up. That first quarter, we got off to a great start. It looked like we were just going to kind of roll through. We had like an 8-point lead. And then all of a sudden, the second quarter, man, they just kept fighting. They kept plugging away. You had some good contributions from a lot of your young players. And I was really impressed with the way they played last night.
Well, the young players are the catalyst now. It's funny you bring it up because the young guys like Herb Jones, 35th overall, and then Trey Murphy's starting to get some run. Jose Alvarado wasn't even drafted. They energized the program. Willie has given them the opportunity, but it's a short leash too. And they know it. So they're taking it very seriously. I love the way these young guys, and Stacey, you see it firsthand. These young guys are very professional now. They know it's at stake. They know how much is out there for them to gain economically, a generation of money. And they come to the office pretty serious when they get into the facility, and they're all there regularly. And they all want minutes. And it's really, the competition's very healthy now inside. And I don't know if it was that way when I got here 10 years ago.
Joel, what do you make of the whole Zion situation? I know everyone from the outside is trying to read into what he's doing. He hasn't really said anything publicly, so we're all left to interpret, kind of read the tea leaves. We saw him with the video with the between the legs dunk the other day, which was spectacular, and yet, he's not going to play again this season. Do you feel that he's going to make a commitment to the Pels long term, or is this going to be one of those situations where he may try to force his way to a bigger market?
No, I truly believe he's happy in New Orleans. Now, he's got to be sound. He's got to be healthy. So with that said, I think both parties have to sit down, very similar to what Joel Embiid had in Philadelphia, because Joel wasn't on the floor all that often early in his career, and they were very cautious with him. And that's where the Pels have been. Zion's health is priority. It's first and foremost, because the big picture, he's 20, 21 years old. That's it. So you're looking long-term with Zion. You're not going to rush him back. He's got to, between the ears, be sound, because that's half the battle. You can come back and, they ramped it up a little bit and then he felt something. So you pull back again. But I think he's happy in New Orleans. It's a good locker room now. It's all of a sudden now there's chemistry. And Griff and a lot of people have said, and Griff and Trajan have done a very good job, the front office. A lot of people say, well, 3 coaches over the last 3 years. Yeah, but they got it right. And you guys know how difficult it is following, Phil Jackson in Chicago, and how many coaches trying to find the right fit and a guy that connects with today's player, his locker room.
The one thing I saw last night, when we were walking to the bus and we were talking about this, is the acquisition of CJ McCollum. I've always been a CJ McCollum fan in Portland. I thought with him and Dame Lillard, they had been one of the most explosive backcourts over the last, 8-10 years. And here he is now getting a chance now to come to a team where he can kind of get out of Dame's shadow a little bit and basically come on a team where he's more of a leader, a guy that can lead by example and still can go out there and get you 30 points. And I think with the combination of Brandon Ingram, and then you got, Devontae Graham, who I'm a big fan of his too, the way he's worked himself into being a very good player. And you get Zion Williamson back. Oh my goodness, Valanciunas, you guys got a team that could cause some major noise in the next few years if everybody can stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, and maybe I should have started with CJ McCollum, because I'll use the word stud. Nobody ever says, boy, he's a stud. He is, though. He's a bright, articulate young man. There's a reason, guys, he's the president of the Players Association. So he is such a bright, sharp guy on and off the floor. He gets it, period, at 30 years of age. And also, he wanted to come to New Orleans. You know how much that means to a small market. When a guy, I want to go there. I want to be the leader of this young locker room, because Brandon Ingram's only 24 years old. That everybody's under 24 on that roster for the most part. So CJ McCollum comes in. He's a mature 30-year-old. He's got great perspective. I didn't know him. It's like you, Stace, when you see a team, maybe in your conference 3 or 4 times a year, you don't get to know the players. You admire their skill set, and you may have casual conversation with them, but you don't live with them. You don't have breakfast, and you don't go into the dining room with them like we do. So that's in a short period of time, because it's not that many. It's 17 games now. He's played for the Pels, averaging 27 a game. Career highs across the board in these 17 games for CJ McCollum. But what he means as far as guys looking up to him and respecting him, that is seriously significant for a young locker room. He just had food trucks out on the parking lot at the facility. Now, remember this, the Bensons feed everybody every day that works for the Saints and the Pels. And we have like a junior high cafeteria between the two. Great facility. One side, Saints, all the fields, their facility. And he just wanted to thank everybody for being so gracious and being so warm.
Wow.
Him. So he had pizzas, he had tacos, he had food trucks out there for everybody, both staffs. And the cafeteria is open anyway. But he just wanted to show his appreciation. So that's the kind of guy he is. They brought in a quality person besides a hell of a player.
How interesting will it be if we get a play-in game between the Pels and the Lakers with Anthony Davis returning, of course, the longtime Pelican star. It will show, I think, the resilience of your group and a chance to play against a big-time opponent. It's got to be wonderful for this team's development long-term.
I don't disagree. And it'd be really nice, Mark, if the Pels hosted that play-in game.
Right.
Put it that way. It'll also be, I want to see the referee assignments the day 24 hours before, but it'll be a lot of fun. This city is, if you look at TV ratings, believe it or not, over the last couple of years for the postseason, and it's ABC/ESPN and then Turner, of course, TNT and then NBA TV. If the Pels, the New Orleans market has been top 3 the last 2 years in postseason viewership. See, the base is ready to explode. And there was electricity in the building last night. There was only 70% of the building filled because upstairs wasn't full. Downstairs was basically full. So they're getting with it. It's been frustration since a guy like Anthony Davis left for this market. Like, if you don't want to be in, because this is a unique place, maybe the most unique city in America. If you don't want to be in, get the you-know-what out. And that's the way New Orleanians feel. So it's a real good situation right now, because now you all of a sudden, like Larry Nance Jr. played for the first time last night. Couldn't wait to get here. Tony Snell's happy to be here. You guys know Tony Snell.
Yep.
What a quality young guy he is. So it's headed in the right direction. This is what Griff and Trajan wanted to do when they got here 3 years ago. And it takes time, but it's finally starting to evolve in that direction.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that when you get organizations that show patience and that go through the bumps and then you start to reap the rewards. I think you're seeing that with the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns a couple of years ago, they go into the bubble, and they go 8-0 and look very impressive. And then they go out and get a Chris Paul the next year, and they haven't looked back. And I think when you start to look at these young teams, Memphis. You guys are going to be in that same kind of situation. We've got a few teams in the Eastern Conference. Cleveland is like that they're starting to show patience and letting these kids develop instead of giving up on these kids after 1 or 2 years, and they're starting to reap the rewards.
Right. And a lot of you've developed them, and now all of a sudden you didn't have the patience. You let them go. We can go down a list of guys, and now they're killing somewhere else after the first 3-4 years in your organization, but you weren't fully invested, even though you developed for somebody else. So if you look at some of the teams in the West, you brought up Phoenix, they're going to eventually have to get a lead for Chris. So, but he's good for a couple of years, the way he's playing right now. But Mikal Bridges is one of my favorite players. Don't look at the box.
Yes.
How much he impacts that situation there. Ayton, like Mobley, those guys are only going to get better. I feel for you guys because Mobley's in your division. So, and then, I loved what Cleveland did earlier in the year when they had Jared Allen, they had Mobley, they had Lowry Markkanen out there. They had that monster baseline and Kevin Love. They could put 4 close to 7-footers on the floor in this day of pace and space and greyhounds. I thought it was just great, imposing what you want to do on someone else, execute and see how they adjust. So there's a bunch of teams right now. Memphis, how good is Desmond Bain? 30th overall, 21st. Brandon Clark. You can go down the list. So there are certain teams, even in Dallas, because they invested in a couple of guys. I'll give Mark Cuban credit. They invested in Dorian Finney-Smith. They developed Maxi Kleba, like Dwight Powell. And it's paying off because now they have the generational talent, Luka, and he's going to make everybody better, like Jokic in Denver. And look at the way Jokic has elevated everybody. So, you guys are in a big market. In New Orleans, everybody here's kind of got a chip on their shoulder, and it's kind of fun for all of us. It's like, yeah, okay, give us some time. It'll all work. And Memphis, they're way ahead of schedule.
Hey, speaking of big markets, so we mentioned that you've had a fantastic career. You spent a long time as the voice for the Lakers. What are some of your favorite memories, or maybe a story you can share of Kobe Bryant and Powell and that group that won a couple of championships?
Well, Kobe, period. 8 years with him, and to watch one of the most graceful, elegant athletes I've ever seen in any sport. And the dedication. People don't realize he'd get to the gym, he'd get to the game 5 hours ahead of time because he wanted to shoot before anybody walked into the building. So all Kobe, basically. You guys got Powell a little bit later.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
How good a person. We were lucky. The NBA was lucky to have the Gasol brothers. Those two guys are that good. Any organization. You have to be, and you're elite enough. Stacey played at the highest level. You have to be elite to get into that 450. But then after, and how do you impact everybody that's around you? And the guys in Europe, we've got Billy Hernan Gomez now, and Jonas Valanciunas. Guys are mature. They're great teammates. They want their teammates to succeed. Watch benches and see if they're enjoying the success of their teammates, or are they looking like, man, that's going to cost me minutes. I'm not going to get as much fun as I thought. And you can tell a lot about the dynamics of a team and whether or not they appreciate when somebody else succeeds. So we've been very fortunate here in New Orleans now. We've got those guys. The Lakers had that previously. Mitch Kupchak is doing a great job. LaMelo is transformed, and Mitch was there when I was there. Now he's the head of Charlotte for Michael Jordan. But they've done a good job. They've drafted well. It's player evaluation, and you guys are finding that out, although you jump-started yours. But you were gifted. You were gifted Zach LaVine for Jimmy Butler. That worked out well for Minnesota, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I love to watch Zach LaVine. I really do. He is some special talent. And I've just read an article in the last couple of days, comments by Zach talking about his Olympic experience and how much it meant to him to be guys that also challenged him, that elevated him on and off the floor as a professional. So from a distance, and I don't know Zach, he's Bruin, and I did the UCLA games a long time ago. I really like what you've got there as the face of your franchise.
When last night, you had the situation in Miami with Spoelstra and, Jimmy Butler and Udonis Haslem. We're all from the outside looking in, and we saw that, and I was telling Mark earlier, because I played for Pat Riley when he first came to Miami, when he first, brought the Heat culture there. And so do I have a little bit of the inside of how that works on the inside. And, I think a lot of people were really caught off guard by that. The people who know Jimmy, it's starting to become a trend. Everywhere he's gone, there's some kind of friction there. And so the question is, how long will it take before Pat Riley says, hey, you know what? It's not worth the trouble, Right. And I really, honestly, just knowing what I know, I don't think it's going to be very long because they have established the way they want to play, like the Patriot way, the Spurs way. They got the Miami Heat way. And I think they've established the way they want to play. And if you're not on board with what they're trying to do, then they're going to get rid of you.
Well, and here's the interesting part of that all. Usually, and we've seen it, but usually it's two players on the same team. It's not the coach. And then after they got into it, and then Udonis was taken aback of his coach, then Eric Spoelstra went back at Jimmy a little bit. And you could see Jimmy's body language from that shot from behind was like, hey, come on, man, chill. Okay, we're over it. But it's interesting you bring it up because it's not about this is the greatest game because that's why we love the Warriors. Beautiful basketball. It's not about isolation basketball. It's not about you. Kyle Lowry was a really good young guy. He went down there for Jimmy Butler, godfather to his child. He went down, and it's almost like I didn't sign up for this. You know what? When guys go into a locker room and they go, "Oh, I sign up for. It's like when Gary Payton and Karl Malone came to the Lakers 03-04. I didn't sign up for this. You know what? So
yeah,
it's an interesting situation, but at the same time, Stacey, there are serious numbers at his age next to his name for the next 3 years. So I know there's always somebody there's always one guy, but to move that contract's going to be interesting as well.
Hey, Joel, we've got a couple of really good young broadcasters in the Chicago market, Adam Amin and Jason Benetti,
Yes.
who do multiple sports. And you were kind of the king of that, doing football and baseball. You know, people think that for a play-by-play guy, well, yeah, he just shows up and does it. They don't know the hours of preparation that go into getting ready to call a game. Can you share with our audience the challenges of trying to do multiple sports and doing them at the elite level that you have always done and Adam and Jason are doing now?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up with the three majors. And then hockey came into my life. Because I'm a St. Louis Blue. Sorry. But we finally got a cup a couple of years ago.
Right.
I went back for the conference finals and the Stanley Cup finals. And I had been in my hometown for about a decade because you're busy at home. And after your parents pass, it's not like you go home as often. So I found St. Louis for that. God, was it great. But to your question, the advice, preparation is everything. It makes no difference. And I read an article a long time ago when Kirk Gowdy was living, and he talked about growing up, loving the majors, the three sports. I fell in love with golf too, and I live on the Golf Channel. But, baseball, basketball, and football. And I fell in love with basketball more than anything else growing up in St. Louis, believe it or not, because I had an 8-year-old brother, eight years older than me, my brother. He took me to all the St. Louis Hawks games. And Bob Pettit blew me away.
Right.
I didn't even know what was going on. He retired in 65, but I watched this guy with Zelmo Beatty and Paul Silas and Bill Bridges and Jumpin' Joe Caldwell at the end of Bob's career. Lenny Wilkins was our first round pick in 60 out of Providence. And I can go on the list of guys that played with Bob. And now fortunately, I get together with Bob every couple of weeks for dinner, but just preparation. If you care, like the night before we played you guys, Stace, but first of all, I watched your Bucks game, but I watched 11 games the night before because there were 11 games on the league pass. So I would imagine the guys that have a night off, and baseball is a different animal. That's 162
right.
in 100 days. It's you forget where you are when you wake up. Baseball's wild. I give those guys a lot of credit. I couldn't do it. My last year in baseball was 2002 and went to the LCS with the Cardinals, and that was it. But I was honored because I got to work with Mike Shannon. And then when it came to football, I learned a lot by my partners because watching all 22 on Saturday in an NFL facility, get in on Friday night, go to the facility, just do your homework. For anybody that wants to do all three major sports, just go in prepared. It's like anything else. It's like a lawyer. He's got his brief ready, doesn't he? So we're no different. Just do your homework. Tonight, getting ready for the Spurs tomorrow, Lakers on Sunday. I'm on the power.
Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive. So give me your opinion about the NBA 75, because there's a lot of discussion about certain guys who should have been on there, didn't make it. And what's your impression of that? Because, you've been around the game a long time. You've seen a lot of these great players come. What's your impression of that?
Well, I didn't disagree with much, believe it or not. And I'm glad that they remembered the guys that excelled in their respective eras. See, that's the thing. All these people are saying, well, he deserves it, or he deserves it, he shouldn't be in there. Yeah, but he competed against the best in his era, and he excelled. He was superior in his era. Nobody, as a coach told me a long time ago, after an NBA season, and we're very fortunate, hey, there were no college teams on the schedule. So these guys, and when Bob Pettit played, there was only 8 teams in the NBA. So there was 8 teams, there were 10 guys, and sometimes they'd let guys go. The owner thought he was losing money, says he saved a paycheck or two. So they didn't travel anybody. Trainers, what trainer? So you had intense, fierce competition. I think they got it right for the most part. You can always go back and say, yeah, but who are you going to insult? Right?
Yeah,
because
right.
Unreal playing in that decade. So I actually think the league did a really good job on that.
That's an interesting point, though, that you said that, when you compare each individual, was he the best in his era? That's a good take on that, because, some of those guys who played with only eight teams, 10 teams or whatever, they were the best. Like, I'm a big Bob Pettit fan. I think Bob Pettit could have played in any of these eras. There's a lot of guys, Pistol Pete and these guys that could have played in this era, Oscar Robertson, so it's you hear these young guys, like, everybody thinks Dwight Howard should have been on there, and I'm a Dwight Howard fan. Is he a Hall of Famer? Yeah, but is he a top 75 guy? I don't know, because was he the best player in his era at his position? That's where it comes down to, and I agree with you on that.
Well, I agree with you on Dwight Howard a little bit too, because I like Dwight. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame. But did his game grow the way we all thought it was going to, the way he started with 1 down and 4 out with that great team in Orlando for Stan Van Gundy, those 3-4 years? And if anything, it leveled off. We always talk, how much upside does he have to his game? Or is he flattened out? Is that the best you're going to get? And he's been for a long time. So his numbers send him to the Hall of Fame. Defensive Player of the Year multiple times. And you can go down the list of things he's done. But top 75s, as I agree with you, completely different story.
Hey, Joel, before we let you go, our viewers that are enjoying this on YouTube can't help but notice the background behind you. It is a Thank God It's Friday edition of the Give Me the Hot Sauce. If you're going to pour us a drink, if you're going to reach behind and pour us a little cocktail, what would you pour for Stacey and myself?
Well, first of all, it's Stacey's, so it's going to be a Magnum. It's not just going to be a 750. Okay, it's going to be a double. Okay, whatever Stacey, and by the way, whatever Stacey wants, it's his world.
There you go.
Okay. He's a friend, and I appreciate his friendship. So it's his choice. He can take me down to the post and beat me. Anything you want, Stacey, it's yours.
I appreciate that, Joel. Joel is a great guy, man. I always love catching up with him. We did Sirius XM together. And that's how. We had a really good rapport there. I really enjoyed working with him. I call him the voice, because there's only a few voices left in this game that. They're very distinctive. Like, if you didn't see Joel, you hear his voice and you'd be like, I know that voice.
Absolutely.
There's not too many people with that voice, and him, there's Neil Funk, there's a Johnny Most of the world, Chick Hearns. These guys have this distinctive voices that you don't even have to know who they are, but you know that voice and you go, I know that voice. And Joel's got the voice. He's one of the last ones left.
Thank you. Usually they say, I remember that bum from somewhere. Wait a minute. Did I see you in the paddock at Santa Anita? No, that wasn't.
Well, Joel, we really appreciate you making time for us today. One of the great voices, as Stacey mentioned, in the history of broadcasting. We enjoyed your work in the NFL, Major League Baseball, basketball, and as you mentioned, you're a big Blues fan.
No sleep.
Yeah, that's right. So thank you so much for joining us on Give Me the Hot Sauce. And for all our guests, Stacey has a signature hot sauce that we're going to send your way. You're in New Orleans, so you can compare it to some of the best down there, all right?
Yes.
You got it. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
Thanks, Joel.
Be safe, brother. Good luck.
Thank you.
Coming up next, we're going to talk a little football on Give Me the Hot Sauce. Keep it right here.
Good job, Joel.
Joel Meyers, a fantastic guest. I know longtime NBA fans, really fans of any professional sport, know that voice. I'm sure they enjoyed listening to our conversation with Joel. And we mentioned we're going to be sending some hot sauce this way. Stacey's been on the road. He forgot to pack his hot sauce read. I know he could do it by memory, but we're going to make sure we get this right. So if you like hot sauce and barbecue sauce, so you're listening to the right show. Give Me the Hot Sauce as the best small batch organic sauces to spice up your kitchen. Chicago-style red sauce with a garlic twist. Our St. Pat's Verde green sauce with extra avocado and cilantro. And our King's Q, a bold, spicy, and sweet sauce just like the king himself. Use code HOTSAUCE21 to get 21% off your first order. That's HOTSAUCE21 for 21% off. Go to GiveMeTheHotSauce.com to place your order. We have T-shirts, mugs, and other swag, too. And, Stacey, we got a bold new flavor that the folks can enjoy, don't we?
Yes, we do. It's not out yet.
Not out yet. Okay.
Not out yet, but it's coming. It's just super hot. The people wanted some hot sauce, real hot sauce.
Right.
We amped it up a little bit. we during the taste test, DJ Pavel was hurt. He was hurt. He's internally hurt. That's how hot it was.
But he provided valuable research for us, though.
Yes, he was a lab rat. We tested it on him. We found out that he can only tolerate so much heat. And so that's how we knew which one to actually put on the market. Okay, because we had Pavel doubled up over the trash can. He had to go to the bathroom. He was sweating like a slave in the hen house. We got him though. We got him, baby.
So yeah, he's got the rifles loaded. He still remembers that day.
He's ready to shoot me.
Yeah,
he's ready to shoot me. Look at him. He's ready to shoot me. I'm not even in the Sriracha studios. He's ready to shoot me.
Hey, let's talk a little NCAA tournament. 3 of the 4 top seeds are already out before the Elite 8. As I mentioned, we're recording on Friday. The Kansas Jayhawks are playing Providence tonight at the United Center. But how about Gonzaga and Arizona getting beat on the same night? That was crazy.
Hey, listen, I've been saying this the last few years. With the one and done rule, it makes the college basketball parity even now. Because what's happening is you're seeing these programs like Houston, Villanova, who are keeping their players 3 and 4 years and getting all that experience in the tournament. So when the tournament rolls around, they're not fazed by the one and done pressure compared to a one and done freshman. Mm-hmm. And so you're starting to see it. Teams are starting to lose games that you thought, there's no way in the world Gonzaga is going to get knocked out with all their talent. They go to the Final Four. I think last year they went to the Final Four. It's amazing how good that program has been, Mark, for them not to have won a national championship yet.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. They've got the most. I think I saw something today. They had the most number 1 seeds in college basketball. Next to my Oklahoma team, we've had quite a few number 1 seeds and not win a national championship. ESPN didn't need to say that.
No,
they need to drag us in. They need to drag us into that. Okay, that was uncalled for. Okay, I live in what have we done? What have we done lately? Okay, and right now, lately, Gonzaga ain't winning. There was no need to bring Oklahoma in that, Mark. There was no need to do that.
No, their comments did not go unnoticed, right, Stacey?
It did not go unnoticed. I was not ready to send an anonymous little text to ESPN today for that little lousy comment. But with the way college basketball is now, and Duke almost got beat last night. They had to fight, and come back to beat Texas Tech. They were down 7 points, late in the game. They had to come back and win that game. But the NCAA tournament, that's what makes it so special, man.
Yeah.
I think everybody's bracket is busted.
Oh,
if there's anybody out there right now that their bracket is still alive, and I commend you on it, because then I need to bring you to win a lottery ticket or something, because there's no way in the world no one thought St. Peter's was gonna be where they are today, in the Elite 8, and Sweet 16, and they got a chance to advance. They're a pretty good basketball team.
Right.
They are a really good basketball team.
Yeah, they got Purdue tonight.
They're not a typical number 15 seed. Mm-hmm. So don't if they go in today and teams think that they're going to just overlook them, I'd be careful if I was them.
You mentioned Gonzaga, and they should have won it last year. They were undefeated going into the championship game, and they lost to Baylor. And Jalen Suggs was such a good player for them. And watching that game last night, I know you were broadcasting, so you didn't get a chance to watch it, but they're slow, Stacey, with Timmy, and the other big kid.
Holmgren. They the number 1 pick.
They couldn't change ends of the floor. Arkansas, it was like the old 40 minutes of hell. They were just running and gunning on them, and Gonzaga had no answers. Man, they should have won it last year with Suggs and Kispert and that crew. Man, if they didn't win it last year, I don't know when they're going to do it.
Well, and I've said this even at the pro game, when you get like these big guys on the floor that, like last night, New Orleans, the Bulls had a lot of success last night pushing the ball in transition and not allowing those guys to load up defensively. When they did that, they're good. And it's no different at the college level. We got a 7-footer like Holmgren, who's a pretty good athlete. He can move. But, the other kid, what's the other kid, Timmy?
Yeah, Drew Timmy.
Yeah. Timmy. Yeah, so he's a big dude. Those guys had a hard time in transition. When you get out, you got 4 or 5 guys on the other team, Arkansas, spreading the floor. And then what happens is, because the college game is like the NBA game now, they switch everything. It's not even fun to watch defensively. I really like the way Baylor last year played defense. Baylor got after you. That's why Baylor won the national championship, because they were able to lock down people. all this switching bigs, taking small guys taking. I hate that defense. I think it's lazy defense, but that's how everybody's playing nowadays. So what you're going to see is like a team like Houston who can defend. Yeah. They're the Baylor this year of college basketball because they defend the half court better than anybody in college basketball right now. And Kelvin Sampson always has a good defensive team. And his little time, we talked about it, earlier, his time being in the NBA, being an assistant coach and then being a head coach, he saw things at the NBA level that will work at the college level. And so he brought it to Houston, and this will be their second straight Final Four trip if they, if they get there. So that's impressive.
Yeah, I was in Pittsburgh last week for that first and second round games, and Houston beat Illinois, and all the Illini fans, they're a big follow here in Chicago, so many alumni in the Chicago area, and they're all complaining, how did we lose to Houston? Well, damn, Kelvin Sampson's got those guys playing defense like you wouldn't believe. And Stacey, they're missing two of their best players, including their leading scorer, Marcus Sasser, who helped them get to the tournament last year. He's out. One of their top reserves, a kid named last name Mark, is out. So they're missing two of their best guys, and Arizona was never even in the game. They were up double figures most of the night.
Listen, defense travels. It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter if it's the pro level or the college level. If you're a good defensive team, you have an opportunity to do well in a one-and-done tournament because you'll get a team, per se, that can't score against tough man-to-man defense. And you saw that Arizona. You saw that with Illinois. They couldn't find ways to get the ball into Cogburn.
Yeah.
The ball comes in. They collapsed on him. He didn't know what to do. He's not a good passer out of the post. Therefore, you're not getting wide-open jump shots. If he's a better passer, those are threes. Those are wide-open threes for Illinois. And Kelvin Sampson knew that he wasn't a good passer. So, therefore, hey, let's make him beat us with him reading the defense and finding the open shooter. Because he's you would think that he had seen that before, but obviously he hadn't seen that kind of pressure. And they couldn't knock down open shots, and that was the difference.
Yeah, this is wide open now. Don't sleep on Houston. They could steal the whole shebang. It'd be interesting
they could.
If Coach K gets one more before he retires. That'd be quite a story, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, that's what they're playing for right now. That's the one motivation Duke has going for them right now is that those young kids do not want to go out. They lost to North Carolina at home, his last home game. They didn't win the ACC tournament for him. And so this is their last shot to try to win something for Coach K. And that would trump over everything that they lost this year with Coach K. The ACC tournament, losing to bitter rival North Carolina at home in Cameron Arena. And then to win a championship, that would just like make everything go away. So they're playing with motivation that way. They want to send Coach K out in style. And they were down Texas Tech 7 late in the game. And you got to remember too, they're playing with a lot of freshmen. And the one thing about Duke's freshmen that I really like is they're very unselfish. Duke's got about 3 or 4 first round picks on their team for one and done players. And they play very well together. They're very unselfish. And this time of year, Mark, what you see with the one and done players is that they know they're going to the league, and this is my time to show out.
Right.
This is my time, the marquee. I'm gonna take shots that I didn't take during the year. I'm gonna do things that I didn't do when I was playing during the regular season. So now you'll see those guys try to do too much. But one thing about Duke's players, they're playing within the system. They're playing for something bigger than a national championship in themselves, and that's their motivation.
Yeah, and Joel Meyers was saying earlier that the networks don't want the Lakers in the play-in. Well, the networks want Duke in the national championship game. They want Coach K all the way to the final game.
They definitely. That's for ratings. Duke is. I mean, this is the arguably the greatest college coach next to John Wooden. So this is his last go around, and Duke has been a staple in the NCAA tournament. And this is something that I think that they know everybody wants to see just for the sentimental value, the one shining moment. They want all that. And they want Coach K in that. So trust me, the powers that be, the eye in the sky, whoever's in charge up there is going to make it happen.
So Eric Musselman and the Arkansas Razorbacks, they're going to be feeling like it's 8 against 5 on Saturday night. So that'll be interesting to watch.
But I'm going to tell you what, though. I'm going to tell you what. Do not be surprised if Arkansas wins that game.
Oh, sure.
Do not be surprised.
Yeah, I like this squad.
I'm telling you something, man. Musselman He's another guy that spent time in the NBA. He coached in Golden State and Sacramento.
Did his dad coach you when you were in Minnesota, or was he gone already?
No, he was. My first year was with the Bulls when he coached Minnesota.
Okay.
He was the first coach in Minnesota,
when they first came in as an expansion team. Yeah.
Yes. So he was but he was a good coach, hard nosed.
Yeah.
Eric Musselman is a great college coach. He's got that Arkansas team playing with a chip on his shoulder. I was listening to him last night after their win. And every single one of them said about the Gonzaga game that he said they all said, they're like, we got a chip on our shoulder.
Yeah.
There was an 86% chance Gonzaga was going to win that game.
Right.
Gonzaga's dancing in the warm-up line, not taking them seriously. And, that kind of stuff, Mark, that motivates people, man. I mean, that puts people it gives people an attitude. Like, okay, we're going to show you. And they play defense. They're very similar to Houston with the way they play. They play a fast tempo game. They have great guards. And the most important thing in the NCAA tournament that I think gets lost a lot, Mark, because there's so much talent out there, is guard play. You got to have good guards in the NCAA tournament. That's one of the reasons why Michigan struggled like they did. If Michigan has a better guard, a point guard, Michigan probably goes a lot deeper than what they did. They got exposed yesterday without having a guard. The guard play was not very good in the tournament. And they barely got out of that first game when they should have lost in that very first game of the tournament. They should have lost. Yeah. They ended up winning that. But guard play is so important. So be watching from this part of the tournament to the Final Four. Guard play is going to be important.
Yeah, and I think Houston will beat Villanova in that regional final tomorrow.
I don't know, Mark. I don't know. I like Houston, but I don't know, man. Jay Wright has that team, Villanova, always playing good in the tournament, man. That Gillespie kid, is a gamer, man. Like he hits big shots. With the way they came back yesterday against Michigan, Michigan had control of the game for a little bit, and then at the end, Gillespie and these guys start making some shots. They play hard. They never give up. They're from Philadelphia, man. I mean, there's a lot to say about that.
Hey, last thing before we wrap this up, the quarterback roulette continues in the National Football League. Matt Ryan, the longtime Atlanta Falcon, got traded to the Indianapolis Colts. That'll make them an interesting squad. So the Falcons needed a quarterback. They signed Marcus Mariota, who's been a backup for the last couple of years. And then the big move, of course, the Cleveland Browns, shocking everybody. They got Baker Mayfield, the former Sooner, on the roster, but they trade for Deshaun Watson. Stacey, he had a press conference today that went on and on and on. Obviously, he didn't answer most of the questions people wanted to hear because of legal entanglements, but boy, most likely with all these civil suits hanging over him, he could miss part of the season. They're going to probably have to either trade or cut Baker. Boy, they've invited a heap of trouble, and they gave him the richest contract any quarterback's ever had. What do you make of that whole deal?
Well, I tell you what, he made out like a bandit. And, and again, we don't know all the ins and outs of the cases. All we know that there's a lot of cases pending. And I guess, 2 got thrown out over the last few weeks. So that's a good sign for him, but there's still other cases going on. It's, to me, I mean, listen, if it was 1 or 2 people, that were making these accusations, that's one thing. But man, 20 plus people. So there's got to be some truth somewhere. I mean, you hope it's not, but I mean, like I said, if it's been 1 or 2 people, you go, okay, maybe he didn't do it. Maybe that was some situation where they were trying to extort him. But man, there's still 22 cases. That means there's 22 people out there, and they all got the same story. And it's not like they all know each other. It's not like they all they're working for a company and it's all right, guys, let's go after Deshaun Watson. These are all different people from different areas, different states, and they're all saying the same thing. So, like I said, wherever there's smoke, there could be a fire. It's going to be hard to discredit 22 people. Like, you might be able to discredit some of them because some of them might have jumped on the bandwagon. Oh, it's soon, I'm going to get involved. And the attorneys, how attorneys are. They always want to get, hey, did he say you had nice hair? If he said you had nice hair, we can sue him. There's attorneys out there like that. So there could be some cases like that. But, man, that's 22 people. And Cleveland's taking a big, big risk. It's a high reward. I mean, it's a big risk, high reward. If he gets out of this legal trouble and he's able to play football and able to play for you next year, He's a talent that can win you a lot of games and possibly put you in position to win a Super Bowl. Because if you look at that Cleveland Browns team, they got a great defense, which you need that to be an elite football team in the NFL and have a chance to win championships. The Rams proved that. Green Bay, all these teams that have won Super Bowls in the past have had great defenses, and he's got weapons around him that can elevate his play as a quarterback. And then he has the ability to be a game changer with his ability to manipulate the pocket, to be able to move around and buy time with his legs. So you're getting a franchise quarterback, but it is a big, big risk, high reward. I don't know. And then you still have Baker Mayfield, who you drafted number 1 on your roster. So what do you do with him? Do you try to package him up for some picks? What team out there needs quarterbacks? Because most teams now have addressed their quarterback issue. Where would he go? I mean,
you'd have to trade him for pennies on the dollar now because most teams have their quarterbacks. Maybe Seattle after trading Russell Wilson to be interested.
I mean, that would be the only. I mean, that would be the only place that really needs a quarterback right now, because I think I don't know, the quarterback they have there now is unproven since Russell Wilson's gone to Denver. So now you put yourself in a situation. They need a quarterback. But is he a guy that you want? Because there's something said about Baker Mayfield. I'm an Oklahoma guy, and he's an Oklahoma guy, and I like Baker Mayfield. Don't know him personally, but I hear a lot of stories about him. There's something about his personality that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, that they are so quick to write him off as a number 1 pick. I mean, the season wasn't even over. They're already talking about trading. Then you got the situation with Odell Beckham. I don't know if you ever saw the video, Mark, where Odell Beckham's dad made a video of how many times Baker Mayfield missed Odell Beckham when he was open, because Baker Mayfield had made the comment that he's not open, he's not getting open, he's not getting separation. So Odell Beckham's father videotaped the whole season of every game and put it out there to show people where his son was open, wide open, and Baker never looked his way. I don't know if it was a personal thing between the two. But, when you got a talent like Odell Beckham and you can't get him the ball, there's something wrong there. And then then you start to see other players talking about him. Duke Johnson, who played there, was a running back for the years that he was there with Baker Mayfield. He had something to say about it. There's a lot of people now that's speaking out on Baker Mayfield that, maybe he wasn't the leader that he said he was, or he portrayed on the outside, got Hollywood with the commercials. It says something that they got rid of him that quick for a guy who's got a major case pending and is not guaranteed that he's going to be able to play this year. That's a big risk.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. The offseason has been incredible for the NFL, and it's just going to continue. We've got a long way to go until we get into the mini camps and then the reporting to the regular training camp in July.
The Bears letting Allen Robinson go. Come on, man.
He's with the Rams now. He's in a better place.
Why? My man's arrogant voice. Why? They got to give my man Justin Fields some weapons.
They will. There's still time, Stacey.
Oh, come on, Bears. They're killing me. I saw he signed with the Rams, baby. No. Justin Fields, I feel your pain, baby. Don't worry. I'm gonna try to get you some people, baby. On Madden, I'm trading everybody. I get all the topics. I get Cooper Kupp on the Bears team. I made all these trades on Madden. Don't worry about it, baby. On Madden, you got all the weapons.
All right, Stace. Well, you're taking care of them on Madden. That's the least you can do for them. We're going to let you go. Enjoy your night in Cleveland. Hopefully the Bulls with a big win on Saturday. As you said, they needed to get 3 out of 4 in this stretch, so they got to win the next 3.
Yeah, they do. They do. They got their hands full. But you know what? Listen, at the end of the day, it's all about mentality. You got to have that mentality. You got to have playoff mentality. You understand what you're playing for. You know what's going to happen if you don't take care of business. And it's like I always say, it's a simple game. Simple game. Go out there and handle your business one game at a time. Go out here and get in the playoffs, and then let the chips fall where they may.
All right, DJ Pavel, time to wrap it up.
Let's do it, DJ Pavel.
Stacey's got dinner with Joakim Noah coming up, hanging out in Cleveland tonight. So
no, he ain't out. Hey, that dinner's over Zoom. He ain't in Cleveland. He ain't in Cleveland, brother.
The great Stacey King joining us. We're glad to be back on Give Me the Hot Sauce. We'll have a brand new episode Next week, Stacy will be back off the road. We'll get back into the studio. Our guy Tim has some personal things he had to take care of today, but he'll be making his lewd comments for you next week, so we can look forward to that. All right, Stace.
All right, Mark. Be good, brother.
Drive home.
Windy City Assassin does it again. Big time player.